And now that you've listened to all that fucking drivel, welcome into the Vegas Squares podcast. This is from Studio B, Spike's house, because that's me, because fucking Anthony's in Florida or Cuba, or he's defecting somewhere. I don't know.
You mean Aaron?
Aaron. Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't know. One of the A people. One of the A-holes on this podcast. So, anyway, joining me in the studio is Anthony. In Florida is Aaron joining us on the phone. Say hello, Aaron.
Hello, Aaron from Florida, where it's cold. But
It's not that
relative
fucking
to the rest-
cold, you
not
crybaby.
cold relative to the rest of the country. Fucking cocksuckers.
Don't be hating the cold weather.
Oh my god, we're fucking terrible at this. Alright, so thank you again for joining us. This is, like I said, episode number 20. We are going to be talking predominantly and pretty much only about the upcoming NFL playoff games this coming Sunday. It is championship weekend. Both the AFC and NFC will be decided. I don't know about you guys, but I am mostly looking forward to this NFC matchup. Eagles and Vikings. They have the late game. They are on at 6:30 or 6:40 p.m.
6:40 Eastern time.
Yeah, 6:40 Eastern time in Philadelphia. The only thing I know is that it's on Fox. I haven't actually heard a weather forecast for this game, but Philadelphia in the winter isn't the warmest place in the world. Certainly not as warm as it is in Florida, Aaron.
Well, I can tell you it's warm in Philly relative to the rest of the... Shut the fuck up. It's going to be an interesting matchup with a dome team having to go outside. And you have Case Keenum versus Nick Foles in the matchup of who gets the right to hand Brady his sixth trophy. Oh, did I say too much too soon?
No. Weather forecast for this game, high of 51. Kickoff will be projected about 47.
Okay, that's not bad. I expected, cold, stormy, and dead like the hearts of everybody that lives in Philadelphia. Wow, that barely got a 6 for a fucking laugh. Jesus Christ, I'm off my game tonight. I like Aaron's analysis on this one. It's who gets to hand Brady his next championship trophy. But I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. The line has opened at 3.5. I'm looking at threes across the board. Total opened at 38.5, and I'm looking somewhere between 38.5 and 39. So that the line stayed more or less consistent. Yeah, throughout the entire week. Anthony, I'll go to you next. What do you think about this matchup? What are you looking for? What do you think the key to this game is going to be?
The thing I'm looking most forward in this matchup, how Minnesota's defense can handle the outside grass weather opposed to their dome playing. They play a lot of dome games all year, even on the road. Detroit's one that they always play on the road every year. They play in the dome. That's why I'm leaning towards Philly in this matchup. Even though trends in this, Minnesota the last 13 games is 12-1. Philly is 10-1 in the last 11 games at home. Philly is 7-1 in the last 8 games at home playing against Minnesota against the spread. I'm a big fan of Philadelphia in this one. I like the money line even. Money line I'm looking at right now is 140.
140. That's actually a real good price for that kind of thing, especially if you're that convinced that Philadelphia can win against a team that's used to playing inside. That's I think that's a good return on investment. Aaron, what do you think about that analysis, specifically about the dome team playing outside if we know that the weather is going to be in the high 40s, low 50s for that game? Do you really think that that's that much of a factor?
Yeah, you're actually right. I mean, if you look at a Philly day in January, and 51 seems like paradise to most people. I don't know if necessarily that's going to have too much of an impact. I think it's going to keep the ball on the ground, and both these teams have what I would call average running games. We also look at the quarterbacks, and we've already known the story based on what the media has told us. But I think this is specifically the game that the Eagles traded for Jay Ajayi for. You know, a guy who's going to tote the rock 25 times, get you 100 to 105 yards, control the time of possession, take the number 3 defense overall in the NFL, and just beat down the Vikings team and crush Case Keenum as much as they can. You look at the flip side, you have a great defense that maybe got a little Swiss cheesy against New Orleans. They're going to look to shore that up. And you got Latavius Murray, a UCF product on the other side, who's quietly had an average to pretty good season this year. So I look to see, the running game, controlling time of possession, and letting this be a defensive stalwart battle as kind of taking the pressure off of the two quarterbacks that the media has loved to just pick apart the last, 5 weeks of the season.
Oh, yeah, at minimum. I mean, these are two quarterbacks that really, aside from Foles' 1 touchdown game, these are two quarterbacks that have, not exactly put up gangbuster numbers for the entirety of their careers. So I think both of them have something to prove, even if this isn't necessarily the stage where they're going to be able to do it. Because like you said, running the ball is probably going to be key in this one.
I agree. Moving that ball forward, moving the clock, game management, and getting first downs where you can against two tough defenses.
Yeah, this is going to be
a field position kind of thing.
Yeah, this is going to be a game for the people that love defense. So I'm looking forward to it because that's my favorite part of the game too. So
there'll be a lot of strategy, a lot of zone reads on third down, and
yeah, the one thing that I'm curious about is that regardless of final score, just based on pure stats, I'm wondering which quarterback is going to have the better statistical day. Which one's going to hit a higher percentage of their passes, which one's going to put up more yards, more touchdowns, fewer interceptions, that kind of thing. I'm kind of leaning towards Case Keenum on that.
I was thinking the same. In my mind, I think Keenum will put up better stats, but I think Foles will manage the game better, and that's what I think particularly going to come down to.
Yeah, I think New Orleans had a pretty good blueprint in the second half of that game on how to kind of keep Keenum off balance. Look for Jim Schwartz to emulate that game plan because, as a guy who's receiving multiple head coaching inquiries, he definitely has been able to get his troops to play sound defense, and statistically they've been better than New Orleans. So his personnel, you've got the front four that's going to punch Keenum in the mouth, and the back four that's going to be able to cover Diggs and Thielen. And like I said, the running game is going to be key to opening up the ability for Keenum to get some time. I like Foles with the more NFL experience in the moment. I know they've both probably been in the league about the same time, but let's be honest, Case Keenum's time with the Rams and the Texans isn't necessarily, all world beating. So I think Foles definitely. I think Foles is going to be relied on more to actually step up and make a few plays, and I think he can do it. I agree with Anthony. I like Philly again in this matchup, and it's going to come down to time of possession, ball control, field position, and I think that crowd's going to be a huge factor.
I absolutely think they're going to be riled up as well. I think this game.
Imagine they booed Santa Claus. What are they going to do to Case Keenum?
I think this will be another close game, but Philly definitely has the upper edge with being at home, having that number 1 seed in this matchup. Sorry, Vikings. You're not going to have a home Super Bowl game. Philly wins 20-17 is my prediction.
20-17. So you would even take the under. I know that
I would take the under. Yep.
The two of you don't necessarily like betting on totals, especially Aaron. But it sounds like the under might be the way to go. Again, I think I agree, at least in principle, as far as the total goes. This is definitely going to be a battle of the trenches. It's definitely going to be a battle of ball control and field position. I'm just not convinced it'll be Philadelphia that wins in the end, but I'm not convinced it's Minnesota either. I think this is going to be whoever has the ball last will be the team that wins, and I just don't know who that's going to be yet. I lean towards Minnesota. I said at the beginning of the playoffs that they were the most complete team that was still left, and I still think that, and I still think that they have probably a slight edge, which obviously a 3.5 point line, the odds makers feel the same way. But I mean, this has been tough. I keep going back and forth on this game. If you ask me again in 2 or 3 hours, I might change my mind on this one. But I think right now, gun to my head, if I'm at the window, I'm going Minnesota minus the 3. But, I also picked Atlanta last week, where both of you guys had Philadelphia, so what the fuck do I know?
Yeah. That's why we look at trends and take it to the window and light it on fire sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're making too bad of an assessment, with the Minnesota, because basically this line screams that, without the home field advantage and without Carson Wentz, Minnesota basically is a touchdown, a 6-point favorite in this aspect. I don't know if necessarily Keenum by himself with that offense deserves to be that heavily favored on a neutral site. So the line strikes me as a little bit strange. As far as the total goes, I think it's going to go over the 38. I think you're talking about a one-possession game like you're talking about Spike. I don't know if it's necessarily who has the ball last. The defenses are so good on both sides that points are just going to come at such a premium. That's where the field position, that's where the two, I know, we talk about it and we talk about not talking about it, that's where the two punters are going to come in at this point. And
God damn it.
Touchdowns are going to be at such a premium. I look for, honestly, broken or fluke plays. Not quite as broken or fluke as the Minnesota Miracle, but, a punt return here that sets up, good field position, a fumble in the backfield, a pickoff one way or the other. It's going to be these broken or these weird plays or these creating turnovers that are going to be the source of points in a game like this. And I think Nick Foles and his band of misfits has the ability to keep it within 1 to 2 points or potentially win the game. I actually believe, I agree with Anthony, I believe Philly's going to head to Minnesota and dance in the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to look at it like a, kind of a 23-21 kind of score.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. One of the analyses that I heard over the week, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on this from both of you. They said obviously Brady's the best quarterback left in the playoffs right now, but they said Minnesota has the next 3 best quarterbacks in the playoffs. They put Case Keenum and then Sam Bradford and then Teddy Bridgewater. It's 2, 3, and 4, and then went to Bortles and then Foles. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you think that Bradford and Bridgewater and even Keenum are that much better than Nick Foles or even Blake Bortles at this point?
I tend to not agree with that. I think Keenum out of the 3 has the most potential left out of those, but as of game management, playing in these situations, I'm leaning towards Foles out of those 3 as who I would pick out. So
interesting. All right, Aaron.
Well, the first question I have, and I'll follow up with my response, is where did you see this?
I admit that it was from, I will just say, a New England beat writer, but I am not going to name the author. If you search for it on Twitter enough, you should be able to find it.
That's fair enough. Okay, I mean, yes, no doubt, Brady's the best. And, okay, if you want to have this clickbait article that Bradford, Bridgewater, and Keenum are the best, great. Enjoy it. Let fans read it. Let fans talk around the water cooler. But at the end of the day, only one of those 3 Viking quarterbacks steps on the field. So basically, those rankings are irrelevant. I think as far as Keenum, Foles, and Keenum, Foles, and Bortles goes, Keenum's probably the top tier. But at the same time, all 3 of those guys are so menial in their offensive schemes as far as game management versus Tom Brady will be expected to beat Jacksonville. Whereas the 3 of those guys, you can label them ABC, 1, 2, and 3, but the 3 of those guys will pretty much be expected to not fuck shit up. So as far as your ranking system goes, to me it seems irrelevant, and it seems like a low grade column to basically get hits and pump Brady up.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the New England beat writers are sick of writing about Brady's quote-unquote injury, and they're clearly not going to get an answer out of the Patriots camp, whether it be from Brady himself or Belichick or my favorite this week was Devin McCourty, also my wife's favorite player, strangely enough. But they asked him, did you get a look at Tom Brady? And his answer was, yeah, he's one of the best-looking guys I've ever seen. And they said, well, no, we mean, did you see his hand? He goes, well, no, when I look at Tom Brady, I'm really only looking at his face. I didn't really see his hand. So it's that Belichickian mindset of, answering the media's questions with nonsense that I think is now permeating the entire team. And I love it, but it also means that the media at this point now has to write about shit like, of the quarterbacks left in the playoffs, maybe the Minnesota backups are better than the starters for Jacksonville or Philly, and that's how we get talking about things like this.
I can tell you that knowing, seeing Devin McCourty, when you sign up for the Patriot way, it's more than just an on-field way of life.
Yeah, my favorite thing that Belichick said this week, yeah, we got 53-man roster, 46 only suit up. We got Jacksonville this week.
Yep. I'm not going to lie. You may have gotten me to switch my mind already, which is, probably 2 or 3 hours ahead of schedule, but I might be leaning Philly now.
I can tell you what, I can say this with almost great certainty that if it comes down to the final play, a Philadelphia defensive back will not whiff on Stephon Diggs.
I agree with that.
100%. That's a fair point. All right, we good on this one? We can move on to the...
Yep, next on the slate, we have the earlier game of Jacksonville at the Patriots.
Right, I'm very curious to hear, especially from you, Anthony, as a non-invested fan. I'm born and bred Boston. New England's been my team since I was 4 years old.
And as we know, New England's Aaron's team. So
yeah, Aaron's team. But he's also invested in Blake Bortles as the UCF guy, right? Or am I making that up?
No, you're absolutely right with that.
So this is what I get for going through a Division III school. I always forget who played where and all that fucking college stuff.
Or the punter's name.
UCF is Division I, bro.
Yeah, I know that you went to a Division I school. I'm saying I went to a Division III school that didn't even have a football team. They actually got rid of it in 1954, I believe. But,
wow. My Patriots fandom began in 1996 as Drew Bledsoe led the Patriots into slaughter against Brett Favre's Packers.
Yes, that I remember that one. I remember that one actually well. That was an interesting one. Especially with the drama around Bill Parcells as to whether or not he was going to remain with the Patriots after that game, and we all know how that shook out. But
looking at this game, open up as New England is a 9-point favorite. The consensus stands at a -7. Flat touchdown now.
Now I'm wondering if that is. Has the money adjusted the line, or was it Brady's injury? What do you guys think on that one?
I think kind of both factors. I think a lot of Sharks like Jacksonville with more than a touchdown. In the sense of a line being like 7.5 to 9, that's not much of a difference compared to 7.5 to 7 or 6.5. That's more of a bigger jump when you get within that full point, close to that touchdown difference. I mean, there's numbers that you look for in games. It's 3, 7s, 10s, 14, stuff like that. Almost a flat 7 everywhere. Some places you have with the half point still, but I mean, if you look at the trends, Jacksonville's 9-3 in their last 12. Total has gone under in 4 of Jacksonville's last 6. New England's 5-0 in the last 5, playing Jacksonville at home against them.
Yeah, now that's the total too opened at 47, and I'm seeing consensus 45 across the board. So that's another 2-point drop in this game, and I think maybe I'm a little naive, but I thought the line at 45 even surprised me. New England with an unbelievably strong scoring defense. Saxonville's strength all year has been their scoring defense.
Yeah.
I figured people would have looked at this game as similar to the Minnesota-Philadelphia game, like a 17-14 type. So I guess that total, even now, surprises me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked with all the media with Brady's injury and all that, with it only being 45. I thought it would be actually closer to 42 at this point.
Well, I think, in my opinion, it's snap judgment based on the market. You look last week, Jacksonville put up 45 points, and New England put, correct me if I'm wrong, New England put up 35 points. So you're looking at a total of 80 points scored by the two teams in, this week's matchup. So the snap market reaction would be somewhere around, like the total was 47, 46, 45. Regarding the number, it was 9.5 to 9, depending on where you found it. Brady's injury, a lot of the guys in Vegas have said Brady's injury is what basically, the lack of knowledge on the injury is what's moving it down. A lot of the money has been pouring in on Jacksonville because everybody likes the sexy pick, the defense, they beat Pittsburgh, and as dominant as the Patriots are, they've become such a ho-hum, yawn fest as far as, their dominance, and 9.5 points in any given playoff game. A lot of these games aren't blowouts, so 9.5 points is an easy pick for a lot of people, even if they don't necessarily believe that. I think that, like Anthony said, I'll agree with him. Combining the fact that you give me 9.5 points in a title game with the fact that Brady may be damaged goods at this point, we don't know. I mean, like you said, the Belichickian way, like, what the hell is going on under that glove? No one knows. It's the $1 million Hope Diamond right now, standing under that red glove.
Yeah, it's
what
like
we
protected.
Know about it, what we don't know about it creates such a mystery, and that's where I think the line has been slipping to that key number that you said, Anthony, 7 points. That is such a key number, and that's going to sway what we all know the sportsbook wants to do. That's going to sway bet back in New England's favor and start to get where, books are basically just, sitting back with their feet up, watching this game, counting them big.
No, I totally agree as well. Brady's hand/thumb is being protected and monitored like Fort Knox right now, in my mind.
Yeah, now, the one thing, because, I still pay probably closer attention to the Boston sports media than any sane person should. But one of the things I do know is that Felger from the Felger and Maz show on 98.5, the Sports Hub out there, what he's saying is no fracture, no ligament. It was just a cut from hitting his head on somebody's helmet and just 4 stitches around the knuckle, but it shouldn't affect him come game time. So it sounds like, based on this report, that people have been making a mountain out of a molehill, and that the injury should not really get to him as much as maybe the line is making people think.
Now you're telling me one guy in a sea of media, whether it be local, regional, or national. I know who you're talking about specifically. It strikes me as odd that he was the only guy to have that kind of information. I personally believe he's probably right. However, for the fact that he has that information when no one else can gain any access, especially in an organization that prides themselves for 18 plus years on minimal information regarding injuries, I think that Belichick and company enjoy keeping them in the dark about this. It has nothing to do with us sitting here trying to figure out the line. Do you think Jacksonville, Doug Marrone sitting in there potentially game planning for Brian Hoyer? Absolutely freaking not.
No, at worst, he's planning for Tom Brady to throw left-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there was something I saw that made me kind of chuckle that, with Tom Brady throwing right-handed, they're a 7.5 point favorite. With him throwing left-handed, they're probably still 3. So,
Yeah. I would totally agree with that.
So it strikes me as strange that, yes, the media motivation like any little thing, because you know what? Any little thing that may or may not leak out of that camp becomes huge, because it's like, oh my God, we may have a piece of bait here. So that might be exactly what it is. It's just bait for the fish.
Well, it's possible, especially with Felger, because he is a known Patriot troll, even though he's been working in the Boston media for as long as I can remember, probably 12, 15 years or more. He's a Packers fan at heart, so it's possible that he just wants to fuck with New Englanders. But, yeah, so, you know, aside from Brady's injury, Anthony, what do you think about this matchup? What do you think about what's the key to this game? Do you think is going to be, and who do you think comes out victorious?
Key to this game, in my mind, is New England's defense on how they can control the run, Blake Bortles' game control, whether they can move the chains or produce 3-and-outs or stop them in neutral field, like around the 50, force them to a punt instead of do a long field goal, in my mind. I do like the Patriots to win this game, but I'm leaning towards Jacksonville to cover. I think Patriots win by 5 or 6. Final score 27-21, something right around that wheelhouse.
Interesting. Okay, so now what we all know that Jacksonville's defense, especially their ability to get to the quarterback, has been their strength this year. How much of that really affects Brady, or does it affect Brady? I mean, is it possible that this is going to be a, all hype for nothing, and they're going to end up only rushing 3 and dropping 8 just so they can at least attempt to cover Gronkowski and Amendola and Hogan and the other half dozen weapons that they have on offense?
I think they go with one game plan, they stick with it, and come halftime, if that's totally failing, then they complete 180 switch it. But if it's somewhat working and they can pressure Brady with 3 or even 4 at sometimes, create a blitz, I see them dropping back more players and doing slight rushes and try and burn that offensive line and create pass disruptions and interceptions.
Interesting. Okay. Aaron, what do you think about this game? I know that we talked, pretty at length about Brady's injury, but aside from that, what are you looking for in this one?
All right, well, let's go ahead and basically say that Brady will be fine. Brady will be Tom Brady, winner of 5 Super Bowl rings, on his quest for the 6th. So let's put the end to that speculation as far as our podcast goes. Anthony touched on, New England's defense being a key. Obviously, Bill Belichick and Patricia's main focus is to shut down Fournette because, like we said, for 18 years, what Belichick does, he takes away your greatest strength. Bortles is going to have to win this game with safe but effective decisions, potentially maybe even with his feet. On that side of the ball, it's going to be, I think, a Kyle Van Noy or similar type spying on Blake Bortles with that situation. As far as the offense goes for Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, the kryptonite X factor has always been punch Brady in the mouth with a solid front 4. When you look at the Giants for 2 years, and you look at the Denver Broncos when they beat them in the AFC title, what's the main thing they have in common? A strong defensive line. Look at Jacksonville. We have a strong defensive line in Jacksonville. They also have guys who can cover a lot of these people. So I look for 4 guys to rush the passer with Brady. The key to me is going to be Jacksonville's linebackers. They're kind of the forgotten men on this defense. The secondary gets the credit, the line gets the credit. But what's the key to New England's offense? The 4 to 10 yard intermediate route. So I think the X factor in this game is going to be Amendola, Hogan, James White, Deion Lewis against those 3 linebackers, Kozlowski, Telvin Smith, and the last guy's name is actually drawing a blank right now. So the X factor for New England is that 4 to 10 yard intermediate area where the Jacksonville linebackers were hanging out. And the X factor for Jacksonville is going to be Blake Bortles. Unfortunately, whether you believe in him or not, he's going to be the guy playing. He's playing for a Super Bowl. He's playing for his, basically his contract next year. With that being said, I'm going to pull a stat out that not many people probably know. Spike, you might know this, but every single AFC Championship game that's ever been played in Foxborough has ended with a Patriots victory. and I believe that trend is going to continue. If the line is 7, like we say now, I'm going to take New England. I think the score is going to be somewhere probably around 24 to 13, 24 to 16. I think it's going to stay under the total, and Tom Brady marches to Minnesota in the quest for the 6th ring.
That's actually a pretty good breakdown. I think I appreciate both of you saying that you think New England are going to win, and I certainly agree. The more I've looked at this game as a New England fan, the less it worries me. I've looked at Jacksonville up and down, and what I'm seeing are things like, they've had a ton of sacks this year, but 28 of those sacks came in 4 games, 2 against the Colts, 2 against the Texans. They have 27 sacks in 12 other games, so they're averaging, slightly better than 2 a game aside from that. I look at Brady when his record against number 1 overall defenses in his career is 6-1. He's got 15 touchdowns and 4 picks, and Jacksonville ain't ranked number 1. So this is also a team that's coached by Doug Marrone, who, when he was the coach of the Bills, went 1-3 against New England. That one win coming in Week 17 of 2014, when New England rested every single player that's worth mentioning. This isn't a team that's going to be able to trick Belichick. It's not a team that can trick Brady. They're going to do exactly what New England expects them to do, and even if they are able to mix things up a little bit, New England's the best at second half adjustments. So, I looked at this game, and the more I think about it now, I would take New England. I mean, at this point, what's the opposite of a teaser? A pleaser? I would take New England down to like -14 and a hook at this point. I'm more confident about this game than I am about the Tennessee game. I'm looking at New England probably, 45-10, 45-13 type game. I don't expect this to be competitive.
Oh,
yeah, I just, because Jacksonville's strength is their defense, but even those numbers are a little inflated, especially with the fact that they were able to get so many sacks in those 2 games against divisional opponents that are garbage.
That have weak offensive lines.
Right. And, New England's offensive line isn't great, but it's a hell of a lot better than what they saw against Indy and Houston. So I just, there's nothing about this team that worries me. And, Bortles going against a Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick defense, why? Like, what about that should make me concerned at all? Like, yeah, Leonard Fournette's probably going to be able to put up a bunch of yards, but, everybody's been able to run in New England. That's the point of a bend, don't break defense, is that you let them get yards in chunks, and then you stop them when you need to.
Let me ask you this, and if we're going to play, conspiracy theories and storylines, there's a man sitting in the press box in the Jaguars organization who, kind of wrote the book on how to beat New England in the Super Bowl. That's Tom Coughlin. What, if anything, does he provide as far as an insider information for the Jaguars?
Well, I'm sure he's been able to get into Doug Marrone's ear, and I'm sure he's been able to help with some of the game planning, but, I don't know, like, Bortles isn't Eli, and he's not the Eli of those years where they were able to win the Super Bowls. This defense, for as flashy as they are at points, aren't as consistent as those Giants teams were. I mean, if this is a team that's supposed to be able to shut down, crazy good offenses, then why did Pittsburgh put up 42 on them last week?
Well, Ben had a couple of fourth down dimes that there were some lucky breaks, but you're right. Jacksonville didn't have necessarily the game that you would expect from their defensive unit. A couple of perfect plays go the other way. That game's a blowout.
Yeah, and you're probably right, but I'm just, I'm looking at what's in front of me. I'm looking at what Jacksonville has done, through the entirety of the season, but not just, I'm not looking at their total number of sacks. I'm looking at it as, where did they get those sacks? And, I'm not even,
Sure.
I mean, they put up 0 on the Chargers, 1 on the Niners, 1 on the Cardinals, and 1 on the Titans. You know, it's just, what about this team should scare me is the defensive line, and it just doesn't. You know, especially if Garoppolo was able to go in there in Week 16 and beat them. Now, obviously, I've heard the conspiracy theory that Belichick traded Garoppolo to the 49ers specifically because he knew they would be playing Jacksonville and because he wanted the game plan on how to beat them. But if a garbage if a garbage team like San Francisco can beat Jacksonville with Brady's backup at the helm, how is Brady going to lose to these guys?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I don't see a scenario with Jacksonville winning as much as a lot of these pundits and these talking heads can see. I just don't. I can't forecast a scenario where they walk into New England and walk out with a victory. I mean, no one's been able to do it yet in the AFC title game, and I can't imagine. You know, a lot of times you like to think you can see these games in your head. I just don't see a scenario where Jacksonville does this. And, I mean, if they do, you know what, great, good for them. They walked in, played the game of their life, and I'll be rooting my little heart out for Blake Bortles. I just can't picture this scenario where it's not, you know, the Patriots representing the AFC. And, you know, I hear all this crap, you know, if Brady wins a 6th ring, he'll have gone through Mariota, Bortles, and either Keenum or Foles. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't give a shit who he fucking steps up against at this point. You know, is that going to devalue his 6th ring any less than having to step through Manning, Wilson? You know, what do you guys think about something like that? The fact that he didn't necessarily have to go through Roethlisberger and Alex Smith and potentially, you know, Matt Ryan again, does that devalue a 6th ring for Brady's legacy in your guys' opinion?
I mean, not for me. You play the games that are out in front of you, and Brady beat who he was expected to beat. I mean, except for that loss to Miami, which was late in the season that just should never have happened. But, you know, as far as the playoffs go, as far as, you know, however these playoffs shake out, if Brady comes out as a Super Bowl champion, I don't expect anybody to say that it was, you know, tainted in some way because he didn't go up against the absolute best of the best quarterbacks that are still in the league.
No,
well, come on. I mean, it's Brady and the Patriots. Every Super Bowl is quote unquote tainted in everyone else's mind.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, these are people that are idiots. I told a story a while back, not on this podcast but elsewhere, where I know a guy that is so obsessed and so incensed that people still believe Deflategate, that he heard about a New Yorker talking about how Brady was definitively guilty and that Brady, you know, definitely cheated and this, that, and the other thing. And this guy that I know ended up calling child services to try to have this guy's kids taken away because he thought that anybody that believed that Brady was actually guilty of deflating footballs had to be mentally deranged and could not be around children.
Wow.
Holy cow, that's pretty serious.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I know that there are going to be people out there that are going to shit on Brady and shit on the Patriots for any number of things, perceived or otherwise. There are still people that perpetuate the myth that they spied on the Rams during their walkthrough before Super Bowl 30, whatever the fuck it was, which was garbage. I mean, it was a rumor that was given to, I think, a Boston Globe reporter at the time, who then said, no, I got wrong information, this was incorrect, this never happened. People still put that forward as if it were a fact, just to try to show that the Patriots are tainted. And it's garbage, but, you know, what are you going to do? This is the nature of the NFL. If your team's not winning, you shit on the team that is. I should ask the Lions fan about that, because his team sure as shit hasn't won anything in a while.
We won one playoff game since, like, 1960, so don't have much room to talk.
Tell me there's a chance.
Yeah, were we 1-12 in the playoffs since, like, 1960?
Oof.
Yeah, it's
Is it that bad?
It's very brutal, yeah.
Oh my god. I didn't realize that. I knew it was bad, but...
Yeah, it's that bad.
Wow.
Are you guys aware, and there's actually a website out there, I don't know if you are aware of it, called YourTeamCheats.com.
I have
It'll give
seen
you
this
very-
one, yeah.
It'll give you very detailed information on every single franchise and the ways they've, I guess, manipulated the system. And the Patriots actually come in total, I guess, amount and how bad of the Chiefs, how bad, it is. They come in at number 12 in the NFL. So, before everybody starts throwing stones at glass houses, maybe take a look at that website.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is when you look at teams like the Cleveland Browns, and you're like, oh, they're cheating, and they still suck.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
You guys suck at even cheating.
I see. Now let's lean towards potential matchups in the Super Bowl. I see on William Hill that there's a few potential lines out depending on what happens with this championship week. Let's take a look at those right now.
Well, before we jump on those, I'd
Okay.
like to give everybody a tip out there. If you listen to the podcast Saturday morning on 12 ounce, or if you catch us on before the Patriots game, if you can catch William Hill's odds, the futures odds to win the Super Bowl right now, the Patriots, last I checked, were plus 105.
110 right now.
Odds to win. I'm sorry?
110 right now.
Oh, they're minus 110?
No, plus 110.
Okay, so they're plus 110, so it's actually gone up at this point. In my opinion, if you're a smart bettor and you believe New England, there's no way they can lose to Jacksonville, which I've already put the bet in. And I've also seen the fact that both NFC squads would be a dog to New England in Super Bowl 52. I've already placed a large wager on the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl at plus 110 odds, knowing full well that when they win, and whoever wins in the NFC is going to be a dog on the money line, I am going to then fire the money line on the other side of the NFC, and I basically insured myself free money. So if you are able to place that kind of wager and that kind of substantial income, that kind of substantial money, you should jump on that as soon as you can, because unless you believe some inkling that Jacksonville is going to defeat New England, in my opinion, the Super Bowl, you can kick back, relax, and collect on either side.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that as well. Yeah, I'm looking at the four potential Super Bowl champions right now with the odds. Patriots are plus 110. Vikings are very low at plus 165 right now, which I'm very surprised by that. Eagles are the next one at plus 650, and Jacksonville's at 7-1.
Wow.
Yeah, based on those lines, I would probably bet on the Eagles. I mean, you're getting 13
I
to 2.
can see what you're
I don't
saying
know.
for the full value, but
Yeah.
but what I'm telling
But
what
common
I'm telling
sense,
you right now
yeah.
is if you put $1,000 on both, on the Patriots
Yeah.
at plus 110, so you're winning 1,100.
Yeah.
And then after they secure their victory, and the NFC representative secures their victory, you know that the NFC representative is going to be at least
Plus 140.
a 125 dog or more on the money line. And as a Pats fan, Spike, and myself, I sit there watching the Super Bowl, obviously rooting for New England to win. So if New England wins, I make $100 profit. If they happen to lose,
You still
I'm
make
going
at
to
least
make
$250,
whatever profit I can find the NFC dog on.
which would be probably plus $250 at least, yeah. Like,
Not 250.
well,
I think
at 125 you make
Philadelphia-
$250.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but yeah, I mean, if Minnesota makes it to the Super Bowl, I can see them being a 130 dog or a 125, 130 dog in that aspect. So you sit back, you kick your feet up, you have a beer, and you and I will be rooting our little hearts out for New England. But if we happen to be on the wrong end of that, we're still going to go to the window and collect some money, free money.
That's that's a pretty good idea. You guys are more experienced sports bettors than I am, especially when it comes to trying to find these little
Edges and hedges.
edges and angles and things like that where you can kind of hit both sides of it. That's pretty clever, actually.
Now, if Jacksonville comes and fucks that all up, then I'm at $1,000. But
Well,
it's
yeah,
a gamble
no.
I'm willing to take.
Yeah, but I mean that's
Gamble I'm willing to take.
But at least you would get the moral victory of your UCF boy going to the Super Bowl.
Is that worth $1,000 though?
Is that worth $1,000 though? I don't know.
We shall find out this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great weekend of games, and, Golden Knights game is going to be on basically at the same time as the NFC Championship as well. They are in Carolina trying to get back in their winning ways, so that'll be an interesting game to watch as well. I'm looking forward to that. But, I mean, it's just going to be a good overall weekend of sports, I think. This is always a fun one, always kind of nice to see how the Super Bowl is going to shake out. Going to see 4 really good teams. Even though they're flawed, they're still really good teams battling their hearts out on Sunday, and I can't wait.
Yes, definitely should be a hell of a week. 4 big teams, 2 spots to fill, 1 champion potential. Yeah, looking at these possible matchups for the Super Bowl, William Hill has actually some spreads available. If it's Vikings against the Jags, Vikings would be a 4.5 favorite. Vikings against the Patriots, Patriots still would be a favorite at -3. Eagles, Jags would be a pick'em, and Eagles, Patriots would be a touchdown favorite.
Huh, okay.
A little surprised with the Viking Patriots, with Vikings having home field Super Bowl, but still not surprised Patriots are a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it is home field in the sense that they are playing in their home field, but
It's also the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, and the way that the league distributes tickets, as far as I know, is 25% go to the AFC fans, 25% go to the NFC fans, and then 50% go to general public and businesses and things like that. So it's the home field, but it's not the home crowd. So as cool as it would be to see something like that, I don't know that it's as much of a factor as people are making it out to be. Maybe it is. I mean, I could be completely wrong.
I'm not leaning towards that as well.
Okay.
I was thinking about it a couple weeks ago, and I kind of thought that way. Now I'm like, it's more of a neutral site, but with some fans that maybe don't sell their tickets for 5 times at least face value.
Oh, God, if they're only getting 5 times face value, they're getting ripped off.
Yeah, I know.
It's got to be about 20.
Well, it should be, but you know how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The Super Bowl is going to be a pretty corporate event at that point. So, as much as the home field advantage will be, in my opinion, very minimal. And but I'm looking forward to. Basically, we've been in Florida for a couple days here. We got to experience the Lightning and the Golden Knights game last night, which was pretty awesome. The Golden Knights won again against Tampa, completing their season sweep. It's always a big conflict for me, but given one team that I've rooted for since I was 12 years old, and the other team that I rooted for about 3.5 months now. So it's been the Golden Knights have been a whirlwind experience, like you touched on, Spike. But Sunday morning, me and my dad are going out fishing, and basically whatever we catch on the water, we're going to come back, grill up on the grill, get some Scooby snacks going, and prepare for 7 hours of football. And I don't think I can I don't think I can think of a better way to spend a Sunday at this point. So.
That sounds incredibly awesome.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good. So I guess it's not sports betting related, but how the hell are you surviving in Vegas with no real immediate access to lakes? I mean, I know Lake Mead is out there, but it's certainly not the water haven that you would get in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Lake Mead kind of keeps that that niche still alive in me, but it's just makes the time that I get to come out here and do things like that with my family, go fishing and stuff. It makes it a little more special. Especially being across the country. All my bets are in for the week. I've made all of my wagers. Like I said, I took Philadelphia on the money line. I took New England at the time. They were 7.5. I took them. I made my bet on New England plus 105 to win the Super Bowl. And so at this point in time, everything's in place, and I'm just ready to watch some football on Sunday.
Oh, looks awesome.
Works for me.
So I'll bring some fish. I'll bring some fish back from on the plane. So
Nice. Yeah.
I'm sure Spike will appreciate that. Yeah.
I definitely will, and I'm sure the people you're sitting next to on the plane will appreciate smelling fish for 4.5 hours on the flight.
Warm fish.
Something smells fishy around here.
Who wanted the warm fish?
One fish? One fish? Oh, your fat friend.
Oh, God. All right. Is that it? I think that's going to do it.
Yeah, I think that completes another episode of Vegas Squares. Catch us on Instagram, Facebook at facebook.com/Vegas Squares, Twitter at Vegas Squares, our Vegas Squares website at Vegas Squares Podcast on Instagram, 12 Ounce Sports Radio. Catch us there on Saturday mornings as well as, what is that? Tuesday evenings.
All right. Sounds good. Aaron, thank you very much for joining us. I know it's about 4 a.m. for you right now, so we appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us, although part of me thinks that it was just your ego not letting us take over the show for you while you were away, because then we would know that you're just completely not needed at this point. Anthony, thank you very much for coming over and not robbing me. I'm Spike. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.